Thank you very much, Dan. Okay, Tuesday, was it? Page Chavdal, we're going to be Eis Zayin. Today we're going to learn chapter 7 in the Maimer here. We talked about the holiness, the letter Daled, which is on the side of holiness, and that represents Bittul. There's the Bittul of the Mashpia and the Makabel. There's a surrender and a humility between a giver and a receiver that creates a bond. And we said there's the level of Yesod, which is the bond, the connection between them, and everything, all the energy flows. Then we said we're going to turn now to the Reish. The Reish is from the unholy side. And the Reish, the first thing we said though, is we spoke about the fact that unholy silences the holy, meaning that the unholy conceals, it covers over the holiness. So you don't see it, so it's silenced. That's what we discussed in the last chapter, in chapter 6. Since it covers, it conceals the holiness, therefore the Reish means poor, but poor meaning that he has nothing. Not poor like the Daled, which is that he's open to everything, but poor in that he has nothing. And now we're going to get into what this means, the poverty of the Reish, what it means that the Reish has nothing. So, chapter 7, Umamshich ba Maimer continues, Friedrich continues in his Maimer, Shezo, She Yaakov Amar Yeshli Koil. Yaakov says, I have everything. Ve'esav Amar Yeshli Rav. Esav says, I have a lot. And we talked about this, the difference between having everything and having a lot. Having everything means you're not lacking anything. You have everything. There's nothing that you don't have. Saying you have a lot implies you don't have everything.
You're missing something.
You're missing something. You have a lot. But so we explained mystically, Ki Abechina de Koil, this idea of Yeshli Koil doesn't just mean he has everything, but Koil alludes to Yesod, that idea of connection, the Achid B'Shmaya Va'ara, the unification of heaven and earth. That's specifically in holiness, where there's that connection, where there's that bond between heaven and earth, between giver and receiver. Aval be'esav shehu klipa v'sitra achira ein bechinas kol ha'machaber. But when we're talking about Esav, Esav represents the unholy side. So there's no kol. He can't say yeshli kol because he doesn't have kol. He doesn't have yesod, meaning he doesn't have that bond that connects heaven and earth, that brings together the giver and the receiver.
So what does he have then?
So he says, I have a lot. Ki im yeshli rav, I have a lot. What does that mean that I have a lot?
If I need.
Well, we'll see. We're going to discuss that. We'll see what that means that I have a lot. We're trying to say that he has nothing, that the Reish has nothing. The Reish ain't koil. The Reish doesn't have koil, so mystically it means he doesn't have yesod. Fine, but we're also saying that not only does he not have yesod, but he doesn't have anything. But Esav said, I have a lot, right? So we'll get there. But before we get there, first of all, we have to understand, what does it mean that he says, I have a lot? What does Rav mean? And how does this relate to the unholiness? So he says like this. Rav, a lot, represents multiplicity. It's the opposite, it's the antithesis of oneness, of unity. The Medrash says, Esav, at the end of Parshas Vayishlach, where we list Esav's family, so it lists his wives and it lists his children. Altogether, Esav and his 5 children total 6 people. And then it says that Esav took everything. He took his wives, his children, and everything he had, called Nafshais Beisai. Nafshais, all the souls of his household. And Nafshais is plural. That's like Rav, a lot, a duplicity. The Ksiv, a multiplicity, excuse me. The Ksiv Vayikach Esav Nafshais Beisai. Yaakov Shivim Nefesh, Yaakov, we list 70 souls. Uksiv Bei Nefesh Achas. The Ksiv he called Nefesh Yetzirach Yaakov Gemer. Actually, a few places in the Chumash it refers to the family of Yaakov as Nefesh in the singular, one soul, a singular soul. Even though Yaakov had 70 souls, but he's referred to in the singular. So we see that Esav, who had less, but it's referred to as many, Nafshos in the plural, many, and Yaakov, who had a lot of souls, but there it's referred to in the singular, Nefesh in the singular. So, the point though that the question that you asked though, so first of all, Yeshli Rav means, Rav, a lot means that there's a multiplicity, there's a lot, it's fragmented, there are a lot of parts, there's no unity, it's lacking that unifying factor of Yesod, the bonding, the coil which unites heaven and earth, giver and receiver. It's lacking that, so therefore there's a multiplicity. But in holiness, it's the opposite. That's why it's singular. But still, ultimately, we're trying to say that l'rosh ein koil. That's the pasuk says, right? That the reish, the poor, doesn't have koil, and literally it means he doesn't have anything. But here we have Esav who had a lot. So even if you want to say it's a multiplicity, but still there's it's still people and it's family, it's children, it's livestock. He wasn't poor. He had stuff. He had a lot of stuff. So Mamshul Chavayid, so he continues to explain the Mashakos of Esav, the Masha Amar Esav Yeshli Rav. This which Esav says, I have a lot. It's not a contradiction to what we said that he doesn't have anything. And how does he explain it? He explains it. Al pi Maimer Rav Mesifta B'Zayar. The Rav Mesifta, the Rosh Yeshiva in Shammai, that the Zohar brings, was giving a share, and he said, Man the Iu Zohar Iu Rav. One man the Iu Zohar, one who is small. Iu Rav, he is great, he is big. Man the Iu Rav, one who is big. Iu Zohar, he is small. What does this mean? The B'Kedusha, the Iu Zohar, in holiness, where one is small. Why is one small? Because that's Yiras Garma, he makes himself small, he has bittul, he has humility. And Yaakov, the Pasuk says, the Navi says, how could Yaakov stand up? He's small. Yaakov, Yidden, holiness, that's small, that's characterized as small. Not small in the negative, but small in the positive, in the holy, meaning that he's bittul, he has humility. From the fact that he's small, that he makes himself small, he becomes great. Why? Through humility and self-nullification, he makes himself open to receiving everything from above. To the extent that he even receives the revelation of the Yud Nivra Elam Haba, which we explained earlier in the Maimer. As we explained in chapter 3, that's the idea of Lachsis B'noim Avaya, to bask in the pleasure, the noyam, the pleasure of Havaya, which, as we said, that's the highest form of pleasure. A Yid is able to achieve that. How? The key to that is bittul. So, that's the meaning of man de iu ze'er iu rav. One who is small is big, and that's what we've explained really in the first half of the Maimer. That when a receiver opens himself up, makes himself vulnerable, and humbles himself, and opens himself up to receive, then he can receive. And what can he receive? He can receive from the highest levels. So from Za'ir, from making yourself small, from Azira's Garma, from making yourself small, Iu Rav, you become great, meaning that you're open now to everything. However, when we're talking about unholiness, man, the Iu Rav, one who is great, meaning, Shuhu Bihisravrivus, he's in an expansive state, Hepech HaBittul, the opposite of Bittul, he makes himself bigger, he inflates himself. Then, what he receives, he's only open to the most external of external. The Lachin Iu Ze'er, therefore he's small, Shehu Inyan Shal Miyut, this idea of Ze'er, small, meaning Miyut, he becomes smaller. He's big and he becomes deflated. Since he only gets a physical, a material energy or blessing, so and materialism on its own, even when you have a lot of it, yeshli rav, he says, I have a lot. Einim itzias klal is nothing. It makes him small. So what do we say? So the first step, because we're going to explain this deeper and deeper. So the first thing is that one who is b'hisrav rav, that Esav, unholiness, that inflates himself, that makes himself big, that has this ego, so he's small, meaning he receives a small energy. What does it mean that the energy that he receives is small? Since he's only getting Gashmi, since there's no intimate bond between the holiness and the unholy, there's no coil, there's no humility. Therefore, what he gets is only material. Materialism is only the most external part of divine energy. It's only the lowest part, and we're going to explain later in the Maimer. We'll see to what extent it's the smallest of energy, of divine energy, is contained in the physical, and therefore, even though he receives a lot of gashmis, he receives a lot of material blessing or sustenance. Nevertheless, it's only material, and since it's only material, it's lacking the depth and the weight and the quality of holy, and so therefore it's small. Now, the thing is, this still doesn't tell us, still Esav, a person could say, you know what, fine, I'm only going to get material, but that's all I'm interested in is the material. So for him, it's not really small necessarily. So that we're going to get to, that even that which he has, even if he has a lot, ultimately he's going to lose that as well. So that we're going to get into now. So the first step, though, is that one who has One who is batal, holiness, gets a lot. One who is not batal gets a little bit. What does it mean that it's a little? Meaning that it's only material, it's only physical, it's only gashmias that he gets. And then we're going to say that even if he's getting an abundance of gashmias, an abundance of material prosperity, even that's really not a lot itself. Okay, if you say to me more than this, we'll explain. That's what we're going to go on to explain. Because, like we said, we didn't answer that question. We're saying the Rosh ain't called, the Rosh has nothing. Now we're saying he has a lot of gashmias. So fine, you're telling me that the gashmias is really nothing. It lacks that depth and that weight and the echos. It lacks the quality. But it's still a lot of gashmias, still a lot of material possessions and things. So how do you say he has nothing? So that's what we're going to have to still explain. We still have to explain. Yeah. So if you say to me, furthermore, we're on the bottom of page Chav Daled here, the last lines, the second paragraph of chapter 7. This, the abundance of materialism that he has, gufa poil by zeirus v'katnas. This causes him to become small. So before we get to why the material objects, the things that he has, is also a little bit, is also small. First, we're going to focus on the individual. Because what does it say? That the person, the Zohar says, man de iu rav iu zeir, right? That the person who's rav, he's zeir. So first we explain he's there, meaning he receives a little bit. He receives because he's only receiving gashmis. But really, if you translate it literally, the one who is big, he himself becomes small. What does it mean that he himself becomes small? So that's what we're going to explain from the Rebbe Marash. Admor Marash, we can understand it in our own reality. Admor Marash, as the Rebbe Marash explains Baruch at length, Bepirish Pasuk Iveles Adam Tesalav Darkev. Al Hashem Yizaf Liboy. The Pasuk says Iveles Adam, the foolishness of man, is Tesalav Darkev. It perverts his way. Al Hashem Yizaf Liboy, and his heart is angry with Eibishter, with Hashem. So it's the Iveles Adam, the foolishness of man, that's Tesalav Darkev, that perverts his way. What does this mean? We see in the nature of reality. Something that is vital to a person's existence, to survival, is found in abundance and without effort. For example, just the oxygen, air. A person needs air to survive, and that's the most vital to a person, and that's everywhere. It's everywhere. It requires no effort to get the air that you need, and it's vital to your existence. And what about the need to also to live besides air? You also need to eat and drink. So eating and drinking, which is also necessary for your survival, it's not as necessary. It's not as vital as air. You don't need it as often. So it's not as available as the air. And even within the two, drinking, which is more vital to a person than eating, obviously we're not saying that you obviously can't live without any of it. Point is, what do you need more of and more often? So you need to drink. That's found even more available than food, and it's even cheaper than food. Meaning, the fact that it's cheaper means that you can acquire it with less effort. Food, which is not as vital as drink, is a little bit more expensive. You also need garments, you need clothing to survive. But it's not as vital as food, and therefore, and in fact, unlike air and food and drink that you can't survive without, you could theoretically survive without clothing. So the is even more expensive. To the extent that when you have your property, your home, where you live, which is even less vital than your clothing, that's even more expensive and requires a lot of effort to get it and to acquire a house. So that's with regard to your necessities, the things that a person needs. You need air, you need food and drink, you need clothing, and you need a house. All these things are vital to you, to different degrees. And therefore, the less vital they are, the more difficult it is to get them, the more expensive they are, the more effort you need to exert to be able to find them. But then there are things that you don't need. There are the pleasures in life that you don't need. Then there are things that are totally the extras that are totally that are even more expensive. To what extent? Your creature comforts are not vital to your existence. They're not necessities, and therefore they're even more difficult to get. Yet there are people that that for these creature comforts, for the extras, they sacrifice themselves and endanger themselves. Which is the opposite of rational thinking. This is the meaning of the pasuk that the crookedness, the foolishness of man, it perverts his way. This practice, this behavior of acting in a way of foolishness, to chase and pursue all these pleasures, to salif darkai. It perverts his way. Not only does he not achieve his goal, the contrary, he becomes smaller, because it causes him to be confused, and he's no longer relaxed. And therefore he lacks even the vital necessities that he needs. What are we saying? That
gamble is money.
but if you get totally consumed, you get totally.
You want me more.
Right, but that's not necessary. The things that you need, you can get relatively easy, and without being confused, without being obsessed by it and consumed by it. But you see that somebody who starts pursuing all these extra pleasures, they become consumed by it. And what happens when you become consumed by it? You start gambling, you start taking risks. What happens? You take risks. Somehow, suddenly, for one day, you can't put food on the table and feed your family. And then you can't sleep at night, and you're on all kinds of...
Yesterday, a guy came to me, telling me advice that why haven't you working? He said, you focus on the shtus. You don't do the shtus. He promised going out of that.
So what happens? So he's saying 2 points here. Number one, that the person himself becomes a mess. You yourself become smaller because you're consumed by it. And now you can't focus on what's really important, what really matters. You're distracted, you're tense, you're stressed out. So you yourself becomes there. But not only that, you also are lacking in what you need. Your vital necessities, when you're pursuing constantly these other pleasures, even what you need, you start to lack. This is the deeper and more literal reading of the statement in the Zohar, that one who is big is small. This abundance of materialism, that itself causes for him to become small. Okay. The Rebbe Marash continues. We say it in Slichas Erev Rosh Hashanah, we say it on Yom Kippur by Ne'ilah, we say that the needs of your people are many, but their minds are small, are feeble. They can't fully comprehend. They lack that wisdom. So the Rebbe Marash is going to explain. Simply, it means is because I have so many needs that that I can't think. It's like what it says about we just read about the Yidden in Mitzrayim. There was Kaitzer Ruach. They couldn't process what he was saying because they were too consumed and too persecuted. So simply that's what it means. But here the Rebbe Marash is going to explain it deeper. The whole reason why do you have many needs? What does it mean you have so many needs? It's because you convince yourself that they're needs. Because when you're constantly pursuing these the excess and the extra pleasures, why is it that I have all these needs? I need this and I need that, when really you don't need any of it. But why do you convince yourself that you need it? Because your mind is short, is small. What does that mean? This idea, the foolishness of man. In other words, Iveles Adam Tesalav Darkei. Why is it that Tesalav Darkei? Why do you go astray? Why do you go off? Because of Iveles Adam. Because it begins with a foolishness. It begins on a false premise, with convincing yourself of something. So why is it that you now feel like you need so many things? The Merubim Tzarchei Amcha. It's only because it starts with your foolishness, meaning that you don't have that full proper understanding, a deep understanding. What does this mean? It's because your daitam ktsara, your mind is short, milahavin, from understanding through pursuing all these pleasures and the extras. You lose even the necessary things. So it's a foolishness. You should be able to hold on to and secure the things that are vital. But because you are pursuing extras, so you lose even that. He explains this even deeper. The deeper meaning of the words v'daitam ktsara, that their mind is small or short or distracted. We were using the term daitam ktsara. We can use different terminology to describe your intelligence, your mind, your attitude, your perspective, and we use the term here das. Das, we know, is his kashrus, his bonding, his connection, his maturity. So what the meaning of daitam ktsara, or short das, means that you're not fully, this idea is not fully resonating with you. As we explained about Yisoid, that Yisoid connects with the highest, there's a connection between Yisoid and Das, but let's not revisit that now. That were he to fully think deeply into godliness, Leida, knowing what? Specifically, what idea of thinking? To know that it's the Eibishter who blesses you, and your success comes from the Eibishter. So you wouldn't search for methods and plans and schemes to travel across the world. But at the very moment that you know and believe, in a way of knowledge of das, hiskashus, meaning that it resonates with you, that it affects you, that it permeates every part of your being, the meaning of the pasuk of that Hashem blesses you in everything you do, which means what? That Hashem could bless you with everything that you have here. Why do you have to go b'chol katzei tevel? You have to travel across the world to start pursuing those things that you want. The Eibusher bless you in everything you do. So when you're sitting here, you can do what you need to do here, and the Eibusher will give you the blessing. Without going to a dangerous place, without scheming and subterfuge, without any of those things, you could achieve and be successful. And this is the reason why a person has many needs, that you're so consumed by all these many needs and you're constantly worrying about them and thinking about them and traveling to all corners of the earth to pursue them. Why? It's because daitam ktsar, because you're lacking das, meaning that you sit and you learn, you come to a class and you learn chassidus and you learn Torah and you learn that the Eibusher blesses you, but the problem is you don't think deeply enough into it to the extent that it resonates with you, that it becomes part of you, that it impacts you. There's a story with Reb Chatzah Fagin, that there was a Fabrengen, and sitting in Fabrengen, and they're saying some inspiring things, and people were thinking about their spiritual status, and people were crying. People were crying because they were very inspired and moved, so they were crying. Suddenly, somebody calls out that the KGB is approaching. So right away, the Fabrengen shuts down. Everybody stops crying. Everybody closes everything up, and everybody starts planning on how to hide and where to go. And then it turns out it was a false alarm. So everybody sits back down to Fabrengen. So Chatzah says, when we're talking about improving spiritually, we're crying. Everybody's crying. But when there's the KGBs coming, when suddenly your life is in danger, so you stop crying and you start figuring out what I have to do. You start coming up with a plan. What's the difference? True, you're sitting at a Fabrengen and we're talking, we're learning Torah, we're learning that the Eibusher blesses us, and we're very inspired, and we're talking inspired. We're so inspired that we're even maybe going to cry. We'll shed a tear, a genuine tear. But ultimately, it doesn't become part of us. Ultimately, it's still detached from reality. And therefore, rather than think, well, how can I apply all these lessons to my life, I cry about it. But when it comes to my life being in danger, suddenly there's no time to cry. I got to do what I have to do to get things done. So that's the idea of daitam ktsara. You're lacking that das. You're lacking the anchor, the maturity, that it doesn't resonate with you to the extent that it affects you. So because daitam ktsara, therefore merubim tzarchamcha. Because you lack that doesn't resonate with you to that extent, because you're lacking that connection to the subject. So therefore, merubim tzarchamcha, you have all these needs and you're going everywhere you need. What?
It doesn't change it.
Doesn't, right. Okay. Okay. And from this comes the state of the foolishness of man perverts his way, to start looking for ways. What does it mean, perverts his way? That normally you should be working properly in the right way, but you start scheming and thinking and stressing and losing sleep and traveling to all places, even when you're putting your life in danger and you're taking these risks that are very dangerous. That all comes from the velas adam, from that foolishness, meaning from the lack of proper maturity and application of the idea. And therefore, as a result, even what you're receiving does gate mitakrumkeit, it comes sort of crooked, not straight. That in exchange for having a lot of material sustenance, you become small canal. So first of all, you become small. The person himself becomes small. You should be focused, you should be relaxed, you should be positive, and you should have everything you need and have your priorities in order. But when your priorities are all messed up, what happens? You become small. Your mind is not where it needs to be. Your relationships suffer. Everything suffers as a result. So that starts out big, meaning obsessed with a lot of gashmis and abundance of material, you become small. But in addition to that, the Rebbe points out, you look at Yud Aleph, the Chatzi Tavase B'Yodei Kais Tav Shin, that he quotes from Maimer, the Friedrich Rebbe talks about, the Medrash says, Eino the Meis Chatzi Tavase B'Yodei. The point he makes over there is that ultimately you can never even satisfy your need. In other words, you're pursuing extras. So you think, I'm going to pursue it, I'm going to get this, and then I'll be settled, I'll be satisfied. But the opposite is true. You're never satisfied. You'll never be able to satisfy that desire. So not only do you not have the peace of mind, not only do you become small, but even the Gashmis you're after is never a lot. So even if you have a lot, you feel like you have nothing. You can never satisfy it. So that's how we understand this idea that when you don't have that bittul, when you don't have the yisoid, and so you lack that humility. As a result, you consider yourself big. And number one, the energy that you get, the blessing you get, is only gashmis, it's only external. Therefore, the quality of it is minuscule. You get a little because you're only getting gashmis, and even the gashmis you're getting, you say, look, Esav had a lot. He was very wealthy. He was very successful. But even that, number one, comes at the cost of peace of mind and priorities and relationships and the things that you really value in life. And it's a foolishness because ultimately those are not things that are vital to your existence, and yet you're willing to sacrifice your very well-being and equilibrium just for something that's not vital, that's not necessary to your existence. And not only that, but even what you have is never a lot, because you'll never satisfy that desire. You'll always be needing more. You'll always be lacking. So you never even have a lot. And I think we have to stop. Should we continue? Let's continue. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. I don't have my watch. 5 more minutes? Okay, let's continue. Chapter 8. And the Friedrich Rebbe continues at the end of chapter 7. Not only, so we're saying, on the one hand, when you're pursuing all these extra pleasures, the creature comforts, when you're pursuing that, you never have enough, and you become small, you lack peace of mind. So you think if you're humble, you should be humbled then by the experience. You're pursuing all these things, your life is in shambles, it's falling apart because of it. So you would think that would humble you. That should be the effect it has in, but the truth is the opposite is true. Not only does it not humble you, become more arrogant. You become more arrogant. That not only does this not make you more sensitive, but on the opposite, you become a yeshus yaser. You become more arrogant. Like Pari, who says, "The Nile is mine, and I made it myself." Pari was such a chutzpah. He had such chutzpah. He had such audacity, had such arrogance that he made a claim that he made the Nile. And that the Nile, Mitzrayim, Egypt was sustained through the Nile. The Nile would overflow, and that's how everything grew in Egypt. And Pari took credit; he took all the credit for it. The emesu shenis baruch b'chasher Yaakov. We all know that the Nile was blessed. Shezeh hepechem esmar, is the opposite of the truth. The emesu, the truth is shenis baruch b'chasher Yaakov was blessed with the blessing of Yaakov. K'meshkos v'yivarach Yaakov is Pari. That Yaakov blessed Pari. When Yaakov comes down, he meets Pari. It says that Yaakov blessed him. What did he bless him? Baruch sheyal nilus l'raglav. He blessed him that the Nilus, that the Nile should rise, should overflow before Pari. Amnam Pari hu esis ha'erev. But Pari is the letters of Pari. If you read it backwards, Pari is ha'erev. Ha'erev means the neck. The neck represents stubbornness and a lack of truth. Not only stubbornness, the neck, first of all, is the opposite. If you want to tell a lie, you don't really make eye contact properly, right? You show the back. So number one, Pari he lied, but not only did he lie, but he was kafei tova. He rejected the good that he was given. He didn't appreciate it. To say that it's my Nile, I made it. Yaakov benches Pari, blesses Pari for the Nilus, and Pari, rather than be humble and say thank you very much, he says, no, it's all mine. All the credit's all mine. So we see that on one hand he's getting blessing, he's being blessed with the Nile, but what does he do with that blessing? He turns around and says that he takes all the credit for it. He becomes even more arrogant. So the question is, why is it? How is it that when that you should become more arrogant. Two things. Number one, why do you become more arrogant? So that we'll explain in a moment. And then the second part of chapter 8, we have to get into the idea that ultimately everything we have comes from godliness, comes from holiness. So even if you're getting gashmis, even if you're getting material sustenance and material blessing, which we said is only chitzonius, the chitzonius is only in the most external energy of godliness. But still it comes from godliness. So how could it be that you can get godliness and as a result become arrogant? How does that work? So that remains to be explained. And Mirza Hashem will explain it on Monday. Monday is Yud Shvat, and Mirza Hashem Monday we hope we'll be able to finish this mimer and finish these last two thoughts.